Hello and welcome to Think and Thrive Regent International School. We are really happy to be able to bring the speaker series that was born at Sunmark to our other sister school, Regent International School, all part of the Fortis Education family. And we're just really excited today that we are having this event and that Think and Thrive is now premiering for the first time at Regent. And today we have a guest speaker, Dr. Savanur, and he's a peak performance sports coach. And I'll say a little bit more about him in a moment. And then we are also going to be moderated by our student, Ahan Simon. So Ahan is 14 years old. He's in year 10. He's an avid cricketer himself and has played pretty much all of his life and had gone back to India to play on to try to play on the cricket team there, but is now safely back in Dubai and has joined Regent this year. Dr. Savanur has a long history of working with athletes, so including the boxing and table tennis teams from India who went to the Tokyo Olympics. And he's currently the peak performance coach for the Punjab Kings, one of the, of course, major cricket teams in India. So with that introduction, I welcome you formally to Think and Thrive, and I will now turn it over to our guest speaker and to our moderator, Ahan. Thank you very much. Enjoy the conversation.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Ahan. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, sir. How are you?
I'm absolutely fine. Thank you so much.
Sir, I play cricket as well, like as a passion, and I have quite a few questions to ask you,
Sure.
and I was wondering if you'd be able to answer them for me. So, should I start on with the questions?
Please, I'm looking forward to hearing your questions.
Okay, so why did you specifically choose to help athletes or cricketers?
I feel that athletes, when they are playing a sport, for them to be successful, not only is the technical expertise and the physical fitness important, but I think so the critical element of success is how your mind is at that moment of time, how you're able to control your mind, how you're able to control your emotions on the field. And this is an area that was still coming up and is still coming up. And I felt that this was a critical missing link for success. And I got very interested in brain science as a result of it about 20 years back. And I thought that I think so this is that missing link that I would like to add value to the athletes. And that's the reason I got into the mental part of sports.
Thank you for answering. So, how did you develop an interest in helping cricketers mainly for Punjab Kings and you work with them?
Yes, so once I decided that I wanted to become a mental conditioning coach, I transitioned from my primary profession for which I had got educated, and I jumped into this alternate profession. And over the last 15 years now that I have been doing this, I primarily work across all sports. Of course, in India, cricket is a very big name, and working, of course, with elite cricketers is something that you look forward to as a professional. And so, over many years, I've been working with many cricketers, and when I got this opportunity with the Punjab Kings team, I was happy to be on board.
That's nice. So I have another question. So, what advice would you give a 15-year-old who wants to get into your line of work?
Into my line as a mental coach.
Yes.
So I think so. First of all, have you need to understand. Uh, you need to connect with people. You need to understand empathy. You will need to know that there are so many different kinds of people and personalities, and it's so the vital ingredient is to I think so develop that interest in humanities and as a broad subject, and psychology obviously as a specific subject. I think so the path to go there will vary depending on country to country, but primarily it will be through a psychology degree, after which you can do a master's in sports psychology. And once you do complete your master's in sports psychology, you then can get into working with elite athletes, either individually as a practice or through working with teams.
So, which university did you go to?
I at that time, about 18 years back, there were no sports psychology per se courses. So I'd gone to Switzerland, where I'd worked on EEG and brain conditioning. I was there for about 1.5 years, uh, and that is how. But now there are many colleges that offer masters in sports psychology specifically, uh, but it was not there even 10 years back. So it's a developing field, and it's an emerging science, you can say.
Okay. So, I have another question. So, I'm an opening batsman,
Hmm.
and so what if a cricketer was on a sort of depressed side out of after getting out of for a duck?
Hmm.
What's the best advice you would give to the batsman or the cricketer that's getting
The
out?
best advice I'll give to the batsman is to accept the fact that he can get out on a duck, just as he can score 100. And I think so it is embracing the nature of the game, embracing the pleasant as well as the unpleasant experiences that you will surely experience in sports, is what exactly enriches a player and makes him a better player. So I think so it is how you develop a learning attribute through the failures is, I think so, the primary ingredient for success. So for that player, I will tell him that it's absolutely fine to feel sad or to feel uh, terrible about at that moment of time, but to accept that that is just a part and parcel of the game and move on.
Thank you, sir. So, what did you do before working with athletes? Like,
So as an education, I completed my masters in medicine in orthodontics, and I started my practice in Pune. And that time I was not a mental coach at all. But in this, I finished in '98, and in 2001, uh, I got into. There was an article actually that came in the papers, which said that because at that time India was not a great sporting nation,
yeah,
and the article that was written by the chief of army staff that time, he said that, and it came in the newspaper, and he said that if we can't win at sports, we can't win wars. And that article and that quote really connected with me. And I thought, as a service to my country, to make my country proud, and to help give glory to our country, our sportsmen need to do well. And that is how I decided that I wanted to get into sports. And when I researched on it, I realized that the mental part was something that was a missing link. And plus I was interested, as I said previously, in brain science, and that is how I uh, actually ventured into this.
okay, sure. Sure, but uh, you did have that famous female wrestler, right? Like the very, she won gold, I think, in the Olympics. You were working with her, right?
I was working with her.
Yeah.
No, I was not.
You weren't?
No.
Okay. Right. Have you ever worked with Virat Kohli? That's my main question.
No, I have not worked with Virat Kohli till now,
Okay.
but I hope to soon.
Okay. So, did you work on the BCCI board? It's that in
Pardon?
the BCCI Academy in Bangalore. Did you work with them?
Yes, so I work with the National Cricket Academy, which is BCCI's academy where all their India level various age group players who have who play for India. The BCCI provides them all the facilities over there. The expertise, the training expertise, technical training by the top coaches of India, uh, and that's the Bangalore is that hub or center of excellence, you can say, of BCCI, where these athletes can train and perform in the off season, and I have been a part of that.
Okay, sir. So do you have any like background regarding cricket? So, like, did you ever?
Me?
Do you have any passion about cricket?
When I was growing, of course it was. I think so. Every Indian cricketer, as he grows with a bat in his right hand or whatever your dominant hand is, and ball on the other side. So I think so. I was no different. I enjoyed watching the game. I enjoyed playing it also. I played till college level. So there is an actual interest that you obviously have in the game of cricket. But as a mental coach, there is no specific preference as such, because whether I have played it before or not, I still, for example, I work with boxers and wrestlers who are whom I have never played, right? But
Yeah.
there is a way in which I need to understand the nuances of sport. Whether I've played it or not doesn't matter. I understand the pressure dynamics, or rather, the various finer things about what causes that player to fail, or which are the areas of success that the player can. What are the touch points of that the player can refine, and so those are my starting points whenever I start working with a athlete in a new sport which I have not worked with before.
Okay, that makes more sense. Sir, so I know you work with Punjab Kings. So what do you feel like they would do like better? So now we're in the second half, obviously because of COVID of the IPL. But do you think that Punjab Kings will at least make it to the finals or the semis this season as they're going right now?
Of course, right now we are at that stage where uh, we've got it's a very interesting and open points table till now, and I think so. We've got three more games to go. So let us see. But I'm very confident that our players will be able to pull it off and give their best in the next three games.
Okay. Sure. Let's say what who's your favorite athlete, like personally, that you work with?
Who's my favorite athlete whom I've worked with? Is that the question?
Yeah. Yeah.
I would. So there is no special favorite or anything. I think so. All my athletes are somebody whom I hold dear, whether it's a golfer or a tennis player or cricketer. I work with teams, so I wouldn't like to, really say that okay, this player is a more favorite of mine than others, because every player has its own uh, connect that you develop with every player. But I have had the privilege of working with many greats of the game, many of world number ones and India number ones that I've worked with, like Sharat Kamal, who was the table tennis, who's India's table tennis legend and India number one. I've worked with Ankita Raina, who has been India number one tennis player. Of course, I'm working with the many players at Punjab Kings, and so there have been many athletes whom I have had the privilege of working with.
Sure. So you watch Punjab Kings train, obviously. So from say before COVID, did did do you see like a difference with them? Like how did COVID affect the cricketers? Like what impact did COVID have on their ability to perform when they are either in nets or in games? Do you feel like it had a bad impact or a good impact?
So talking in general about
In
sports
general.
athletes, right?
Yeah.
So in general, of course, I think so. COVID and the quarantine of and the lockdown basically have has had impact on all aspects of their game, because there was no training. Athletes need to maintain a particular body shape, their weight, but because they were not training enough, their diet went for a toss. They were not able to go to the gym as regularly, and maybe some of them start gaining weight, some of them start losing muscle, and all that starts affecting their mind, because then this they start seeing whatever they're trying to achieve suddenly starts going far away from them. So a lockdown was surely a specific challenge for me during COVID times, where I had to work with the athlete and create certain plans to help them keep going all in those tough times. Another challenge currently is that across today athletes are starting to travel, but they have to undergo a lot of quarantine, and staying in a room isolated for 6 days and sometimes 10 days can be a very very tough thing. um, so I think so COVID has created new challenges, but now athletes are more, and everybody now is more prepared to handle those challenges. At that time, of course, it was very tough initially.
Okay, so I have a. So you work with obviously KL Rahul, the captain of Punjab Kings, and remember when he got dropped from all the teams because of the incident that happened with Karan Johar on the talk show. I don't. Yeah, there was some. He got dropped for a while. So do you feel like he's like KL Rahul, the batsman that I look up to the most out of it, like the second most was. But do you feel like he is improving and like he improved as he was gone or dropped from the Indian team when
Yeah,
when
at the
he
present moment, I will not be able to talk anything in particular about any player related to Punjab Kings. So we can pass these specific questions related to specific
player.
players within the team.
I'm sure raising that question. Sir, how would you advise students that are unsure about what they would want to study at university?
My advice to students is to have openness to exploring and gaining opportunities of internship, or looking at various options before you actually get into one stream of your choice, because today there is so much of choice that students have. And I think so you have got opportunities to connect, like through the Thrive and Think and Thrive program over here, and I'm sure there's so many others where you are exposed to real time practical aspects of various fields. And the more you look out and open and engage, the more I think so students will have an understanding of what really is a driving force, what is it that they would love to do. I think so that is very important. That is something that I have learned, that if you love to do something, and if you're then able to make that as a profession, I think so that's the best profession that you can have, is where you really something, it's not work, because that's something that you love to do. So I think so the advice that I would like to just try to is to search and keep searching till the time you feel, this is the thing that I want to do for the rest of my life. And I think so that's something then that you would want to pursue.
So it's like something that you'd be happy with doing for the rest of your life, basically. Okay.
Yes, very true.
Is there more pressure on sports people today to maintain a positive public personal like? See, like some people, they're not very positive as they are like athletes in general. They're not if they're not doing well in the sport that they're supposed to do well in. Do you feel like they get pulled down a lot by social media and stuff like this, and their positive like motivation is gone? So like, what would you say to them to help them out of the situation?
Yes, so I think so. There is no doubt that sports person are more accessible. They put a lot of their stuff on Instagram, and at the same time, along with the love that they get from their fans, they also get a lot of brickbats.
Yeah.
There is a lot of trolling that happens, and it's very important for emerging athletes, especially who are getting new fame, they are tasting success, to understand the dynamics of how these can suddenly take you down, and to have that particular distance. It's Yes, for today, for players need to have that public presence on social media, but I feel that they need to also learn how to manage it in a manner that it doesn't affects them, and affects their performance. So I think so. It's a good question, because uh, players do sometimes feel that pressure of performance, because of the pressure that maybe media and social media, the fans can generate.
Okay, sir. Sir, what makes for a very successful athlete, do you think, in your personal opinion, and how do you know that the athlete can be and will be successful in the future, as they're say small and then they're working hard towards what they're doing?
A very good question, Ahan. And I think so over here, for me, the number one criteria, the top three, I would say, criteria for real success amongst athletes is: number one, self discipline. Your ability to discipline yourself of doing the things that you would want to do every day diligently is a very important aspect, and you can make out the difference between good athletes and great athletes just by that one thing. The second is that inner motivation, the desire to achieve that success, and the right kind of success, with the right intentions of gaining that success, having clear goals, and driving yourself and pushing yourself towards that goal. So I think so. There's a second point, and the third point is having the right values. I think so. The right values with the right kind of motivation and self-discipline are the three key determinants for success for athletes. But I would extrapolate that to success for anyone.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, I have another question. It's about the Tokyo Olympics. So, what advice did you give to the Tokyo Olympics athletes, so the table tennis players that you work with, the boxers? How did you apply like your skills to motivating them?
So I think so. Here we need to understand what mental coaching is, so motivation. Players are already motivated;
Yeah.
they want to do well, and they're obviously at that level because they have trained hard. And for you to train at that level, they are already motivated. My work primarily in as a mental coach is to help them manage their mindset under
Okay.
extremely challenging conditions. There are a lot of expectations that athletes have, especially Olympics, once in a 4 year event, and maybe in the next 4 years they will maybe probably not get a chance again. So is there one singular, what do you say? It's a one-time thing for them, for most of the Olympians. So the pressure is very high, the expectations are very high, and how do they maintain their mindset? How do they manage those pressures and expectations? Is what is the work that I do with athletes.
Okay,
And there are many strategies and techniques and skills that I provide to players, where the player trains on those. Just as he's training his body, he needs to train his mind on how he's going to manage those mental areas. And it's then providing him with that path or a plan, and maintaining him at that level of the Olympics is, I think so, that specific area of work is what I do with the athletes.
okay, sir. Sir, have you ever worked with like what's the youngest athlete that you've worked with, and how do they need help like in a mental way?
If I get your question right, who is the youngest athlete I have worked with?
and how did they really need your help?
Yes. So my youngest athlete that I've worked was a 6-year-old prodigy, chess prodigy.
Really?
So he's the youngest, and of course, I didn't work with him per se, but rather with his parents to help them understand how they should, giving them advice on how they should be managing his mindset, considering he's such a young genius, and it's so very important that they have the right understanding of how they can go about developing his career. So at the teen athlete level, it's important for athletes, but at the same time for parents, as a sports parents, to understand how to go about developing their child's natural talent.
And that makes more sense. Like, so you would just mainly help anybody, or specifically athletes that need help when they're not at the right mental state, or when they're being pulled down, basically. And so, yeah, that's basically it. Thank you so much for talking with me. It was really a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ahan. I enjoyed talking to you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. Miss, you're in mute.
Sorry. Hello, hi, and we're
Hi.
back. And before we sign off, I just want to say, first of all, Dr. Savanur, thank you so much for taking your time. One of the things that I learned from what you had to share with students is about how important it is that those athletes are in a right state of mind. I mean, of course, what you've said is they have that motivation, but they also have so much pressure to deal with. And yet they have to get to that finish line.
Yes.
Sometimes just for personal reasons, but also when they're representing their country and the pressures that are on there. So what you do is very, very important. So thank you for sharing that wisdom with us. And also the other thing that I really like that you said is that, you switched careers, which
Yes.
is something that people do all the time. And sometimes when you're young, you don't realize just how possible that is. So I appreciated you talking a little bit about your background and what you do now and that shift. All right. So Ahan, you did a fabulous job. This is your very first time. He's 14 years old, Dr. Savanur. He's
He
14.
did amazing. He asked some very pointed questions.
Yeah.
He was very confident,
Yes.
and he really engaged me the right way. So, Ahan, well done.
Thank you
Yes.
so much.
So thank you so much. This has been Think and Thrive, and it's been absolutely our pleasure today to be with you and to share the stories from real careers and real people to our students here at Regent. So thank you so much, and thank you for tuning in, and goodbye.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so